Welcome to Advanced Reporting, an Alexio short course. In this course, we'll look at some advanced filtering options, and we'll primarily be focusing on FCR-style reports, although we will look at filtering an R-style report. We'll also be looking at the data grid, and looking at some display configurations that you can make that will perhaps make the data grid a substitution for an Excel spreadsheet. Let's jump right in. I'm looking at FCR 3101, the people list. This report, run without any particular field chooser changes, would look like this, with the report showing street, city, state, and zip code. I'll make some selections to eliminate some of the pre-selected fields and add in some of my own. I don't need zip code on my report, and I don't need state, and I don't need city or street. I'll add in age group. Now my report shows first and last name, and then only those selected fields. Now in my case, I have all age groups showing. We'll add a filter, and we'll filter on age group. I'm going to select contains as my control item, and then I want to pull in people who are in their 20s. But I also want people in their 30s. As you work with field chooser reports, take note of the fact that you can change the and to an or. I want to change mine to an or. You also have other options, not and or not or. And I'll add an additional filter that says I want age group that contains also people in their 30s. The effect to my report is that I will now get anyone who's in their 20s or 30s. Now I have them, but as you'll notice, it's mixed in. There's no sort order other than last name alphabetical that's putting all the 20 groups or 30 groups together. I can affect this by going back to the field chooser option, focusing in on my age group, and choosing to group by age group. Now when I run the report, instead of age group being a column in my report, it's now a grouping mechanism. And so here's everyone in their 20s listed. And if I accelerate through, in this case, this particular report has 32 pages, I can accelerate down and end up looking at the group in their 30s. I'll use the search feature to do that. Ultimately, in my case, I had to select Find Next 3 different times, but I've searched in and now I'm focused on specifically the group of people that are in their 30s. The search feature is a useful function when you're displaying any report. You can search on a partial character string, and it works in the same way that you would if you were using perhaps a find and replace option in Microsoft Word. It's finding any occurrence of the find what criteria that you put in. As opposed to grouping by the age group, 20s and 30s, I could deselect that and instead choose to sort it in an ascending way. This will put all the 20s first and then all the 30s. The Field Chooser tab also allows for, in addition to grouping by a particular field, it can also allow for counting or other forms of totaling by a particular field. If I focus in on age group and I indicate that I would like it to total or count based on that field, it will tell me everyone in this case that is in the report that's in 20s and then in the 30s. You'll have to experiment with what is the best totaling, grouping, and filtering options for the particular report that you're working with. If you've found a particular report that is useful to you, rather than having to go back through and make all the choices a second time, you can navigate to the Report Options tab and choose to save the report. If I click Save, it tells me that this particular report is a master report and I can't save it as a new report. But it will ask me if I would like to make a copy, which in my case I would, and now I can indicate that this is called the people list So now my report will be called People List of Ages 20s and 30s. It's a good idea to also adjust your description. Then you'll be given the option for which folder or report category you want your new custom report to show up in. And then finally, a choice as to whether or not you want to make this a public report or simply a private report. Private would mean that only your login would see this report. The system will create a new report with the number 3101, which is the same number as the original report, but it'll put an additional marker on the back side of the number, in my case 3101.10. A data grid is a great way to do quick analysis of the report data itself. In many cases, rather than needing a true printed report, you just need information that would have been provided by the report. When I select Data Grid, rather than seeing a preview, I'm seeing the report information presented in a spreadsheet format. You can adjust what is happening at the bottom of the page. In my case, I'm seeing a total indicated as the total number of people in the report. When you right-click on a column, you'll get options for either showing what's the minimum number in the column, the maximum number, or count, as I'm seeing here. I'll make a change to a contribution report and we'll see the benefit of some of these additional options. I've chosen to run a data grid for the contribution detail report, and my current time frame is year to date. In the amount column, it's currently summing the total. If I would rather see perhaps what is the maximum donation, I simply make the adjustment by right-clicking in the column footer and then choosing Max. I'm now seeing that my largest donation within that time frame is $3,000. If I would like to select it and switch it back to a sum, I can do that, or as you can see, I could even switch it to average. You can also filter your column. So if I'd like to see just the contributions made to the building fund, I'm now seeing building fund filter, and my average is just the average to those gifts to the building fund. Using the data grid is similar to using an Excel spreadsheet, but certainly is a time saver if indeed you don't need to save it in Excel, but you really just want the analysis options. Depending on the report that you're working with, you may also have additional columns you can bring into the grid itself. If you right-click on the header and choose Column Chooser, if indeed there are options, in my case the only additional field I could bring in would be Contact ID, and now I have Contact ID in my data grid. We've now returned to an R-style report. If you remember from our basic reporting class, our reports are more limited. I do not have the option to bring on additional fields into an R report, but I do have filtering options. Navigating to the Report Filter tab, I can engage a filter on a particular field. In this case, I'll focus in again on age group, and I'll choose that I want age group to matches item in list, and then I can choose I'll focus again on 20s and 30s. Now I have a search criteria. Age group matches item in list, 20s or 30s. Now I'm seeing the standard R report for baptisms that is limited to just people in the age group 20s and 30s. One of the limitations of an R-style report is that I have no grouping option. Unlike the FCR, where I could group this so that it put all of my 20s together and all of my 30s together, I don't have that option in an R-style report. As you work on being strategic with the implementation of your Alexio database, the more FCR reports you can use, the more flexibility and potentially you'll have, and will potentially minimize any frustration with reporting. When you do choose to execute the report, if you would like, you can always export the document into Excel, as a great example, for additional filtering and sorting options, even on an R-style report. Well, that's it for advanced reporting. Thanks for watching this Alexio short course.